Assalamu alaikum friends and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to share with you my checklist on how to create the best Jetpack Compose UI out there. Let's get started. So this checklist is from my own experience, of course. So in this checklist, I try to add all the things that I learned along the way to make the best composables, right? I also wrote about it in my newsletter. You can follow this one. This is actually a guide on how to build checklists. So this is actually a concept for productivity. So whenever you see yourself repeating certain stuff, try to create a checklist so you don't forget anything. And this is actually a guide on how to build such checklists. All right, so let's get started. Of course, you need some kind of a design. Let's pretend you are having this kind of design. Let me hide this UI. This is a Figma. Let's say we got this from our designer that we need to create some kind of buttons that have beginning icon, let's call it leading icon, and trailing icon. It can accept two colors like the following. So we shall create this kind of UI. Of course, at the beginning, you have to write some kind of UI, of course. So this is actually my UI here. You can see it is called a new button. You can define the name, of course, and we simply try to design it and compose. Of course, I'm not going to teach you how to add rows, icons, text, stuff like that, but this is actually the way on how to design it. So this is the first thing you try to design the composable. Also make sure about your parameters, whether they are fine or not. Let's say that the designer said this is the only colors are going to need. So maybe we can create a cancel button and, for example, accept button. But I know from the designer that the color will be changed. This is just example. So one of the first thing I try to do is to add previews. Previews are essential. So we need to add previews to my composable. So here is a simple preview. Let's build and refresh. This preview will be the same as you are having in Figma. So I try to create a simple preview in which I tell other developers how this composable look like, okay? You can do it like that, or you can, for example, do default preview for this button and this button alone, all right? Now, this is the first thing I try to manage, which is the default previews. The next thing I try to look at, which is the cyclomatic complexity. Okay, this is pattern I started to do recently, which is simply a software metric that indicate the complexity of the program. Okay, now in Compose, it's a little bit different because Compose tend to be a little bit complex, but I can get a sense on how my composable is doing. Luckily here is 75%, it's pretty fine. I'm using actually a plugin for that reason. Let me show you the plugin. The plugin is called Code Complexity. This is the one, Code Complexity, and you can give it a setting here. Let me check the settings in the tools, which is Code Complexity. Simple score is less than 7 complexity. I get this metric from a book called Code That Fits Into Your Head. Actually, you can define different standard, but this one is pretty simple. That's a good thing. Complex score, I tried my own, which is 11. It seems to be fine. This is for all Kotlin code, right? It's not just for composables, but in my compose world, I try to follow this pattern. Okay, that's the first thing. I like to keep my code in Compose under certain complexity. All right, so that was the next step. Well, let me just increase the size a little bit. The next thing is that I try to run some kind of linting. There is a great library provided by Slack and Twitter, which is called Compose Lint. It has many simple lint check for Jetpack Compose. That way, I don't have to always remember some common pitfalls. So using this kind of linting will ensure I don't make such mistake. So let's add this library. Here is the library actually. It's called Compose Lint. Right, it's by Slack. It is by Twitter, actually, those links specifically. So simply add this line into your GitHub project. I'll try to add it like the following, and then I'll try also to make it as part of this one, the libs, okay? So it is right there in the libs file, in the version catalog, right? So at the start, you are going to see that we have an error, okay? So this is a pattern actually. Parameters in composable, let me show you that. Parameter in composable function should be ordered by the following pattern: params with .default, then modifiers, then param with default, optionally, and trailing function that might not have a default parameter. Okay, so I think I'm not doing that correctly. Exactly, it is done actually, but if you change it like that, it will be an error. Okay, this is fine for the moment. If I change it like that, it won't work. This one would work actually. Let's wait. Sometimes the linting doesn't work until you try to do this one. So it is working pretty fine. Sometimes you can get more details about something. For example, you can click on this link and it will show you like ordering composable properly. And this is kind of a standard you can follow with your team. You can also create your own standards, right? So let me set this back to here. Also, you can use KT-lint for such a thing, but this is, for the moment, this is fine for me. And let's say you don't want a specific lint. In your case, you can simply suppress this lint and it will work pretty fine. Okay, you can just suppress it. Problem is that I'm having problem with the machine. It's not loading things properly, but it is fine. It is for the standard. The next thing I try to manage, which is something I forget a lot. A lot of people in the PRs will tell me, hey, you forget to deal with the dark theme. Okay, so the dark theme, for that reason, you have to add some kind of preview. Let me just add another preview here that will do default dark theme. So what I will simply do, I will add this one in a dark theme, of course. But here you can see that I'm making a mistake actually. Yeah, just don't pass any modifier here. I'm making a mistake because I'm not using this button within my theme. So I will have to add the theme also. I suppose this is perfect theme, this one, so that I can guarantee that I'm using the right theme. Here in the preview, I need to do two things. I need to do show background and also to true. Let me just increase the font a little bit. And the second thing is that I need to add the UI mode. This UI mode needs to be, what you call it, configuration.UI mode night yes. That way we are going to ensure that we are using this one. You can see that there is a problem actually in this one, right? Because yeah, I need also to add this perfect composable here. So I can guarantee that I'm using the right theme. So for this reason, I need to check with the designer. I need to check with the designer because he didn't tell me what you should do on the dark theme, whether this will be the same color, whether the color of the text will be the same. So I need to check with the designer because this is a designer thing. But mainly here, I need to refer to the colors from the theme actually instead of doing it from static values like that, right? So this can be done. This can be passed as a theme color. But here, for example, when passing the color, you can pass it like the following, what you call it, material theme dot colors. And here you can pass the colors, for example, for the text, for the arrow. You can add even your own custom design. So I already made a video about that, so you can add your own colors. But this is the main idea. You can, for example, I think there is error container color like that. And then I need to ensure that I'm passing this error color inside the theme actually. So I'm going to take this error color. Let me just put these colors inside the color plate like that. This is where the colors goes. Then I will go to the theme. Here in the theme, I need to pass both colors for dark and for light. Okay, so here for the error, it will be error color like the following. And for this one, I'm going to do just a simple thing. I'm going to do copy. I'm going to change the alpha maybe to 0.5 like the following. All right, so with this thing in mind, I can ensure, okay, let me just do that. Okay, this is error container, sorry. So it needs to be error container and error container here. Now we should get those colors. So using this approach, I don't know why it's not working here. For this case, I think it shall work. Let me check. For this one, the error color is a little bit lighter, exactly because I said it lighter. I think here in the theme, it is lighter, exactly, the alpha is less. For this one, I don't know why it's not working as expected, even though we are using the theme. But this is the idea I want to share, is that you can add the theme. You need to handle also the dark mode here in the colors and also inside the text. For example, this text isn't correct, all right? We need to do something about it. So you can go here to the text here and check with the style. You can pass it via the style or via the color like that. And you can make on surface like that. So it shall work. Okay, this is dependent on the design, of course, so you need to make sure you are doing it correctly. Okay, you can also create your own design system, so you can pass your own colors. As I said, I made a video about it. You can check it out. This is actually the thing for this step. The next step I try to do also related to previews, which is I try to see how it would work in a different scenario or different environments such as RTL, right, or right-left languages. For example, if I try to use this button in an RTL in the Arabic word, right, I need to make sure that it is working correctly. So you can do it like the following. You can also do it for dark theme and not. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete it and I'm going to add default Arabic theme. Okay, and here I'm going to write something in Arabic like that, which is hello. Okay, here let me set back the color to error. right? So you see, we also forgot how to do with the trailing icon. We need to deal with the color here via tint, I think. Yeah, exactly. You need to do that. Oh, we forgot that. So this is actually the case. So here you need to do local like following, and simply you can paste AR. Exactly. So from Arabic, we read it like that. So it will be swapped. So we make sure that our UI is actually working correctly in Arabic mode also. Okay. As I said, this is from experience, right? I didn't know that in the beginning, but with the experience, every time creating UIs, getting reviews from other people, seeing problems in production, of course, you are going to deal with that. But this is the thing. We try to learn from our mistakes. Okay, that's it for previews in general. Next, I try to manually test this UI. Simply what I try to do is only I run this one. You can simply run a simple UI to check whether it is working correctly or not. Like I'm talking about the visual aspect. You can run previews luckily with Compose. So it will run here. It won't be the best one, but it is sufficient. I can see that there is a ripple effect. Sometimes I try to drag. I just want some kind of simple test to make sure that everything is working fine. You can add some kind of listeners, of course, to make sure that you are actually doing with the listening part. So this is the manual test aspect. You can even put it into some kind of UI, for example, pre-made screen you have in your application, and test it. Okay, manual test is really required. All right. While doing this thing, I try also to open the inspector, the layout inspector, and I try to see if there are anything related to composition problem. I'm going to see what about composition in a minute, but I try to notice what's happening in the beginning. So if I try to click, okay, nothing is happening. Let me check if there are a problem with recompositions. Okay, there are skipped recomposition. This is fine. Nice. So everything is fine. So if I click on this one, it should increase only that. It seems like it is fine for the moment. There is some skipped recomposition, which is a cool thing, but for the moment, it seems fine. I'm going to do another step, which is to check the stability of the parameters being passed, but this is for a moment what you can do with the manual test. You need to make sure that you are doing things correctly, of course. While doing that, you might not, for example, use what you call it, the layout inspector. There are other means to check the composition and you can debug your UIs. I already made a video about it. You can also check it. All right, this is it for now. The next thing I try to do is that I try to write UI tests for this one, okay? So I need to make sure that the UI is displayed correctly. Maybe the colors aspect is done via another type of test, but I try to see the interaction and whether it is showing the correct thing, especially if there are some logic inside there. So what you can do, so simply press Alt Enter here and you are going to create a test. JUnit 4, call it button UI test and press Enter and you are going to put it there. Of course, it will be put here. You need the dependencies to run your tests, of course. So I'm going to write a test like the following, but before that, I need several stuff. So here in the test, I try to add the following rule, which is create compose rule. Okay, that's the beauty about compose. And then I'm going to add, depending on the type of test you are going to write, test button display correctly. For example, we can add this test name. So you can try with compose rule. Okay, what is happening here? Okay, this is AI. I hate AI for the moment. Okay, so what is this button parameters? You can click Alt and fill functions with values. Here we don't have this one. We need a label like the following. The label can be hello. Okay, let's make sure that there is hello here. The background color for the moment, I'm not interested with the background color. So for the icons for the moment, I can pass none. That's fine. And definitely I want to check the behavior of is enabled, is working or not, because this is my button. I need to make sure about it. So for the moment, this can be fine, I think. Okay, I need to pass something. True. I need to test three things. I need to test this one, that it is displaying the things correctly. I need to add another test to make sure that click lambda is working correctly. Test click lambda on button when enabled. And of course, I need to make sure for another test that it doesn't work when it is disabled, of course. Okay, I'm writing three tests at the same time. This is not a good thing actually, but we can test it like this one. All right. Okay, for the first test, it's fine. For the second test, I need to make sure that it's working. So what I can do, you can add a test tag if it's necessary for your case. You can add a test tag to the button. So you can, for example, you want to add a test tag to this one. Maybe you can do test tag so you can locate it in the test. But for me, it's fine. I can locate it with the name. On this one, what I'm trying to do, I'm going to perform click. Okay. For this one, you can use mocks, right? You can pass a mocked lambda and you can see whether it was invoked or not. But I can't do for the moment because I don't want many problems. I will try to create a variable that is clicked, Boolean. For the moment is false. If it's get here, it will be true, right? And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to assert true for the following, for the clicked. The test here isn't readable. It doesn't tell that this, what I'm trying to do. Well, here for the test title, I can see that this is the thing of testing. But in terms of asserting, you are asserting a variable that it will require for the developer reading the code to understand it. So this is a little bit not readable, but as I told you, you can use Mockito for that. You can use Mockey, whatever you like. Okay, same thing. If it is clicked like the following, we need to make sure that this is a thing. And I'm performing it. And I need to make sure that this one is false. Okay. Usually I try to make my test fails. So I understand that I'm testing the right thing, but yeah, let's just pass it. So this is the next action I try to do, which is to check or verify my UIs. This would be dependent on each UI because for this button, I need to check the click part. I need to check the display correctly of the parts because sometimes it has some logic. So you need to test this logic test. So this one would be dependent on your case. So here are the tests running. First button, display correctly. We are going to click. Disabled button, all the tests are passing. Okay. Awesome. This is a cool thing. I think we are fine. We can push our code to the GitHub or something like that. So that was for the testing. The other part, which include how the UI is represented, like the edges, the colors, the stuff like that, we need to add another type of test, which is screenshot testing. Okay. Now, screenshot testing would require some setup, and we are going to make this video much longer. So I invite you to check one video. I already made it about this screenshot testing. I used a library called Shot. You can check it. There are many libraries regarding screenshot testing. Also, Google, I think, released a new one. We need to try that. So what will happen is that you are going to do the same thing, and you are going to give it a parameter. So the UI will be rendered. And then you simply call something called compare screenshot, something like that. This is based on the library. For Shot, you can only do that. So you can give a different variation of the different states you think your composable will be in. For example, in my case, it will be in the red, in the green. It will have big words, for example, smaller words. It will contain a trailing icon and leading icon. So there are different variations. So I can ensure the consistency of this UI, even if someone changes. For example, if he changed something here, for example, simple small DPs, colors, stuff like that, we can detect it. Okay, this is regression testing. So this is kind of a different way. I'm going to do it for many things. I'm going to do it for Arabic letters, for example, like RTL, disabled and enabled. And then I'm going to share the screenshots with the team in that PR so we can agree, all of us, that this is the correct state for this button. So next time, if anyone changed something regarding that, of course, if it is from the designer, then definitely are going to regenerate the screenshot. Otherwise, we need to make sure that this doesn't change. Okay. So this is part on how to create a screenshot testing. As I said, I have a separate video for that. It's almost 25 minutes or so. In that video, I share all the details you need to know about screenshot testing. So that's almost all of it for composable screens. The next step is that we also something we learned via practice, which is to handle the stability, okay? Because almost all of our composable need to be skippable and restartable. There are only specific cases where your composable doesn't have to be restartable. For example, launched effect and stuff like that. So this is kind of an optimization to the composable you are creating, so it can skip recomposition. So the compose runtime, can skip recomposition for this one. Okay, you can make sure that all your parameters are pretty fine for the moment. I think they are all fine. Primitive, this one modifier is not primitive, but it is stable. If you check it here, you are going to see this is a stable one, right? You can check color is also a stable class. Of course, it is mutable, so it is better than stable. Boolean, stuff like image vector is stable, right? Almost all of them are stable, right? Lambdas are usually stable. From our eyes, you can see that this is fine. But usually I try to get the reports from the Compose compiler. Okay, you do it like the following. I'm planning to create videos about stability check and stability improvements for Compose. So if this interests you, let me know below in the comments. So you can go to this one, projects here, and add the following. If you have many modules, it makes sense to add it here. Otherwise, you can add it to specific modules. You add the following task, which is Compose compiler stuff. You are going to tell it to generate the reports, right? Try to sync it, and then you are going to run the following command from the terminal. Okay, so it is Gradle wrapper. We are going to run this with the wrapper, and it is assemble. Usually it is release, okay, because you need to check that on the release part. But for the moment, I'm going to use the debug here, and then I'm going to give the parameter, which is compose compiler reports, and give it the value of true. I don't know if this is visible for you, but I hope you can check it. Run the command, and then you need to notice what's happening here. It will generate some report which has all the information you need about stability, what the Compose compiler decides. So sometimes this is a little bit tricky. Okay, it's completed. So you can switch here to the project and go to the app, build Compose compiler. Here, the classes, you are going to see the class here. We only have one class. Here for the composables, you need to go to your composable, which is the new button. For our case, it is skippable and restartable here. So this is fine. You can go here also to make sure that we are talking about the same thing. So for the new button, the string is stable, modifier is stable, color is stable, is enabled stable or stable. So the result will be this one is skippable and restartable. I don't try to check everything. I check only the composable I'm creating, so I can make sure that I'm creating the best composable out there. So almost that's all what I try to do. From time to time, there are specific things I try to do certain composables, but this is in a nutshell. This is not a nutshell, this is everything. This is how I try to approach my UIs. I try to approach my Jetpack composable, because this is the thing. Compose is about a lot of composables. So if you try to make every composable the best you can, you will make the whole Compose UI the best possible. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching this video to the end. You can also download this checklist. I made the steps into some kind of checklist. You can download it here in the description form. Thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next videos. Salam alaikum.